Sean and Sherelle. Sean, I'll let you go first, just because you're farther away than Sherelle is. Melinda Dolphin asks, which one of our players have the greatest potential to make a summer leap? Sean, I think that's a lot of things that folks in kind of that tune into this show, but just UNC fans in general are really wondering, especially with a team that, as we've laid out, has, I guess, really been relied on going into the offseason for its upside. And, the gamble that comes behind a lot of these players. Sean, give me which one of those guys you think has the most potential to make the big summer jump that we've seen happen before.
Well, I think we're banking on pretty much everybody making that summer leap, which is a little scary. But we'll probably go with uh, most risk free option, and we're talking about anybody on the team, right? Or anybody that is currently on the roster.
Sean, you can answer this however you'd like to answer
Okay,
this.
then I'm going to go with Vasar, just because we spent a lot of time talking about how he could be the. You look at him what he did last year at Arizona, very efficient, but from a minutes perspective, it wasn't until the end of the year, so still very unproven despite all the financial means that were put into him. But I think from how he could be used to offset some of the lack of the guard's strengths or experience from a playmaking perspective, as well as his just versatility and agility at that 7 foot. I would put it on him to making that leap as a redshirt junior. And then I also think Powell, just given all his minutes that he did play at West Virginia, I think has probably the guy we talk about the least right now. But as things fit, could be the starting three or at least that six man. And nice stroke, shot at a high volume, and I think athletically can do a little bit more than what was shown.
Thanks, Sean. I asked for one, and you took two. So
No
I
problem,
know,
Joey.
I know you're absolutely just gobbling up Sherelle's potential answers over there. So Sherelle, blame your co-analyst for absolutely butchering what's going on with your potential for answers here. But I'll ask you the same question, Sean. I'm just messing with you. I love you, man. Which player has the greatest potential to make the big summer league?
I'm gonna answer it by asking you the question.
Come
Who last
on.
year when this question was asked last year, who did I say
You said
over
Seth
and over
Trimble.
again?
You said Seth
No,
Trimble.
I said Elliot Cadeau.
Oh, you said Elliot
But
Cadeau. Hey, you said Elliot Cadeau.
but
Remember that when you said Elliot Cadeau last summer? Remember that?
yeah, there you go. There you go. I gave you a softball. You didn't hit it out of the park. Just a C and I double. So it's Seth Trimble, and I think the answer to this question, or every iteration of this question over the next 6 months, the answer is going to be Seth Trimble, because he has shown that he can be. Let me back up a little bit. I think the Seth Trimble discourse has gotten a little bit out of hand. Like, yes, he has deficits. There are things he can improve on, but just reading some of the comments about him, you would think that he's just some scrub who's never done anything of consequence in his entire career. And I vehemently disagree with that. He was basically the second leading scorer. I think he was like a tenth of a point behind Ian Jackson last year. He was the second leading rebounder on the team last year. Now, not a great passer, didn't have a lot of assists, and didn't shoot well. I'll give you that. But I think the discourse needs to be a little more honest about him, because the way people talk about him, you think he's terrible. So there's that. But he also is in a position where it's gonna be kind of his team, and I think because he's the guy who's coming back. He's the fourth year senior. He's what everybody wants in a Carolina player. And if he is able to produce just a little bit, more efficiently from a scoring standpoint, maintain that defensive focus, and then just have, I would say, moderate gains as it comes to assist rate, court vision, and then 3 point shooting, you're talking about a good player. Now, uh, granted, that is a lot to ask in one offseason to say, hey, become a better passer and a better 3 point shooter. Well, we've seen it done multiple times. Elliot Cadeau just did it for Carolina. So I think Trimble is going to be my answer for like, who's the X factor, who's the person with the most potential to make a leap, who's the person who, if they're playing well, Carolina can do well. Like, the answer to that is all going to be Seth Trimble for me, because if he can be the early season version of himself more often than not, that changes a lot for UNC. Because right now, the idea is like, Well, they don't have a go-to scorer. They don't have a guy who can go get you a bucket whenever it's needed. They don't. They're replacing R.J. Davis and all this scoring with Kyan Evans and Seth Trimble. So if he can just be a little bit better version of himself, then I think that mitigates some of the losses that they had and will help out everybody else on the roster. So for me, it's like I said, the next 6 months, it's going to be the answer is going to be Seth Trimble every single time.
I mean, maybe I'll just put that up on a crawl before I ask you any question for the next little while, and just maybe we just create that pattern, right? That just becomes our banter for the next little while.
Yeah, because I mean, to what Sean said, what you're doing with this roster, but what you're doing with this roster is it's basically a 6-leg parlay that you're trying to hit, because you're saying Jonathan Powell and Henry Vasar and Jaron Stevenson and Kyan Evans and Seth Trimble, those 5 guys, and then just add in James Brown leaps. And Jaden Young, they all have to make a leap in the same year. So you're looking at like plus 3,200 odds or something. Now that's for this team to be the best possible version of itself. If 3 or 4 guys make a leap, I still think it can be a good team. They are missing some things, but I think they have enough there that if a couple guys take leaps, that they can do some things. But again, it's going to be a team, I think, that looks a lot different. And I think their hope is that the sum of the parts is better than the individual pieces. And it is a more balanced roster. I don't think you can argue with that. So that's kind of the positive outlook. But to me, it all is going to hinge on Seth Trimble, and that's a lot of pressure to put on one person.
But he's a
but he's a senior. But especially considering kind of the ominous cloud hanging over UNC and what this year could mean if certain things happen. But I think it's on his shoulders, and we'll see if he can carry it.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to lean into that. And want to reiterate, and this is probably what I will put on the crawl for the next little while, is that the roster's not done. We're not saying that North Carolina is going out to sign 30 new guys as soon as the draft is over. That's not what we're saying. But we can't say with certainty. I'm trying to use some of Sherelle's little words here, Sean. Can you tell? We can't say with certainty, with dual confirmation, that this roster is complete, and that's why I think folks that are still kind of hand-wringing. I understand last year was a tough offseason to go into, knowing North Carolina has deficits in the post. But before we can actually really fully analyze what the starters and the depth are going to look like on this roster, we got to make sure it's a complete roster, and that'll come with some time.